Good morning on Friday, the 3rd of January 2025. It's 8 a.m. in the Gambia and therefore coffee time on West Coast Radio with me, Peter Gomez. In the world of politics, public opinion matters, and opinion polling plays an integral role in gauging public sentiment and providing valuable insights that shape political strategies. But how is public opinion polling conducted, and can it always be trusted? That is our focus this morning, and I'll be joined on the program by a senior pollster, Sait Matty, who heads the Center for Research Policy and Development. All four dailies are out this morning, so we'll have a full review of the newspaper headlines for you as part of the program. Thanks for joining us. Let's introduce our guest, Sait Matty, before we bring you the newspaper front pages this morning. Sait, welcome back to Coffee Time.
Thank you, Uncle Peter. It's always a pleasure to be here.
I always begin by asking this question to every Jao. How do you spell your Jao? With an O or an A?
With an A.
With an A. Okay, yes. Because I see people spell yours with an A, but Pasamba spells his with an O.
Yes, yeah? yes. But I think it's one Joanne. Yeah, it's one Joanne, but you know.
All right. Yeah. If you weren't here this morning at this hour, where would you be?
I'll be at home. Yeah.
Awake or in bed?
Awake.
Sure.
After Fajr is a good time to work, to read, and to follow up. Yeah.
Because I hear that young people have a problem of waking up early. I have a couple at home, and I know the problem I go, through.
We are Bromkers now, so you have to think about Depas and others too as well. So.
All right. And do you go out early in the morning to get the papers?
I know. I mostly follow the papers. They bring it to the office, but for me, I mostly follow them online. Okay. Yes, I mostly follow online. Right. Yes,
we have them early.
Yes.
Every day. So let's begin our press review with the Point newspaper. SFL calls for apt government action to socio-economic problems in Gambia. NUP conducts biennial non-elective congress. Gambia launches first women's resource app, Musoluta. Amir Tarawale calls for peace and unity in New Year message. ECOWAS Commission President praises Gambia's foreign policy under Jawara, and Gach donates 200 street lights to Gambi Sara. On to Foraya's front page. NAMS under pressure to consider draft constitution is part of Foraya's review of 2024. There's a New Year message from the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice, which has declared this year, 2025, a year of transparency and accountability. Senegal and Mauritania achieve first gas signaling new era of energy security in West Africa. We learn from Foraya. And there's another feature story reflecting on the Mediterranean as a cemetery for migrants during the past year amid aggressive EU migration policy. That is to quote Foraya. Next, a look at the Voices front cover. President Barrow calls for cleaning of cities, towns, and communities. SK Jaite dedicates Dockers Guild's award to Gambian icons and humanitarians. NAWEC staff and private security guards convicted of stealing NAWEC transformers. Dr. Sabale criticizes UDP-led local governments. Barrow pins Gambia's steady economic growth to nation's stability, and COPG enjoins NAMS to reject 2024 draft constitution. And we end with the Standards Friday front cover. Government reacts to allegations of registering dark fleet of foreign ships. KM Mayor says councils ready to sue government over non-payment of subventions. And failing to meet Congress deadline, NPP and others ask IEC for extension. And that was your first look at the front pages of Friday's newspapers. Our thanks to the Standard, Foraya, The Point, and The Voice. Do you always think that, the media reflects, the everyday bread and butter issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think in... would I say we're in political season, so sometimes they focus more on the political, on political conversation, rather than bringing in more human interest stories, things that concerns the almost everyday Gambian. Sometimes this do happen, but I think our media is very top down, more at the top, more interested in what politician is saying, rather than the complaints that others are saying, which I think there should be a plan.
And in human interest or human stories, would you rather we focused more on the cost of living, for instance? I mean, there are people who are being thrown out of their homes because they can't foot the rent.
I mean, for me, those are the things that I think are very critical, especially now within our so-called transition. I mean, I think the political freedoms and all those things are there, but we talk about increased crime, so many things,
exactly.
But we are not looking at where those problems are coming from, and it's the difficulty in terms of accessing, in terms of living for many.
Yeah, and even when crimes happen, for instance, a killing happens that we all abhor, that we all condemn, then the police says we're going flat out, to get to the bottom of this. Rarely do they come back to say, well, we have apprehended the perpetrator, the killer or whatever. But it just, melts away.
Yeah. For me, I think the police, in some instances, they do come back. In most cases, and sometimes I say, well,
there is this Karanta chap, for instance, that everybody is talking about.
That guy is, I have been following him on social media. He's a serious one.
Yeah,
but
this is a guy who is hiding, who is hiding in the open, driving around.
But I think also sometimes, people need to be aware of certain things. Like, how can somebody just come in consistently faking you, and it is on the media, and keep going?
You still can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's difficult. You can say this and say.
Sait Matty is here with us, not to talk about criminals and all of that. He's here to talk about polling. It's coffee time with Peter Gomez, and we'll be getting into the conversation right after this. It's Friday, the 3rd of January, 2025, and live on West Coast Radio. It's coffee time with me, Peter Gomez. Thanks for joining us. Now, the main way Gambians participate in our representative democracy and make their voices heard is by voting and sending elected representatives to do the work of government. But even when they are not selecting candidates or voting on important issues in their community, Gambians have views and opinions that matter and should be included in the public dialogue. And this is where public opinion polling comes into play. Public opinion polling is an important way to make sure those views and opinions are brought into important national debates and conversations. But how are public opinion polls conducted, and can they always be trusted? These are important questions because the latest survey by Afrobarometer shows widespread public dissatisfaction with the Gambia's economic situation and government performance. Although conducted between April and May last year, it wasn't until a few days before Christmas that the research outcome was published. Predictably, the authorities reacted negatively to the report, with both the Ministers of Information and Agriculture rejecting the findings on West Coast Radio. Well, Sait Matty Center for Research, Policy and Development conducted this study on behalf of Afrobarometer, and he's here to talk to us about it. Like I said, I mean, how do you conduct opinion polling?
Thank you, Uncle Peter. I think, first of all, I want to say that we've been releasing reports since, I think, August.
August of when?
2024.
Okay.
Because that's when we had our first dissemination. But before that dissemination, we also organized what we call government briefing, where we invited government to give them heads up in terms of the data that we were going to release. And then after that, we had first release, and that was mostly on constitutional democracy. And so this is the first time that we're releasing this on economy, but we'll get back to that. But how do we conduct this? There are technical areas, but I just want to focus on the step-by-step. At least that will help our viewers. So for Afrobarometer, which is a Pan-African network, of non-partisan network of research organizations across Africa. Currently, they are in 42 countries. So what we do, basically, the same method we use across the countries that we survey.
The same method used in Ghana are the same used
methods,
here
yes.
in Nigeria.
So possibly the differences might be just in the sample size. So may want to do 2,400. That also depends on the availability of funding and all those different, because surveys are very expensive. So it's the same method. So in Gambia, the method we use is a national representative sample, and in that means we go across the entire country. But going across the entire country, before that we started with the sampling that is usually based on the GBOS frame, census frame. That's where we select our EAs. So in this round 10, or even all the previous rounds, we were using 150 EAs based on the sample size that we did of 1,200. And so this EAs cuts across all the local government areas, that is Banjul, Kanifing, all the way to Basse. So Banjul and Kanifing, they are usually urban. So for us, when we are doing our sample also, we need to factor in the rural-urban dynamics to ensure that at the end of the day, our sample could be representative and can give an entire figure of what is done. So the first step is to do the sampling, and the sampling is usually done by a statistician. When the statistician is done with the sampling, then we also train our enumerators to go across the country. So we usually have a team of four teams, and these are 20 people. And each team will have what they call a team leader, and with also the other enumerators. And our questionnaires are usually translated in all the local languages, just to give opportunity to people in terms of their responses, to be easy and to be also standardized in that way.
Are they really translated into all the local languages?
Yeah, in the four main local languages. Okay. So we look at, and that is also based on the population size, the languages that are mostly spoken. And so we have Mandinka, Fula, Wolof, and Jola. And so also English, because some people will prefer to do the questionnaire also in English. So when we get to, so the sampling, there's the first stage of the sampling at the national level, which is usually done by the statistician. So for us, when we get to a community, so they select 150 EAs for us, and this EAs cuts across all the...
for somebody just tuning in, yeah. EA means? Enumeration
area. Okay. So the thing is, in this country, we are a group. We are spatially distributed by GBOS into different, what they call enumeration areas. Mm-hmm. In that way, when all the sensors and surveys are based on that. And so most of these samples are drawn from that. So, but for us as a team, when we receive this and it is approved by our afrobarometer, network, then for us, the field workers, when we get to a community, we also have to do other sampling steps. And these steps have to include getting into a community which was already pre-identified, and then from there, then you have to find a landmark, and from that landmark, then all these 4 different individuals. I told you a team of 5 with 1 supervisor and 4 other enumerators. So they have to go east, west, north, south, so that not one of them following each other. And from there, they have to do houses. When they count houses or households, it has to be on interval of 5 or 10. So basically
so after every 5th house?
Yeah, they enter.
Okay.
So they enter. Sometimes you enter into a rented house, and but you have to also count the households, because you need to engage with the people and understand the text. So when you enter the house now, you are selecting your own individual. So you can list, because we are only interested in adult Gambians. Those are the voting age, that is 18 and above. So when you enter the house, then you ask the first person that you met, all those different stuff, the number of people that are here and the names of those people that are there. And then the tablet will do its own selection, because we use tablets in the field. And why we use tablets or computer assisted is because we also want to record GPS. We want to ensure that our enumerators, they are in places where we send them to be for the sample.
So it's a tracking
system. So you cannot even do surveys outside the EA that is already been sampled and selected. So even if you want to change an EA, it has to go through a different process. Like round 10, we change one of the EAs, and the reason is in Bartes here, we have to replace it with another EA in Bartes. And because that EA that was already selected before, people were living there, but subsequently it was changed into stores and turned into market. So when you go there, you cannot find people in their households. And we don't go to shops and all those things. So our method is different from census where everybody is counted. For us, we do the sampling and then we get there. So when you're in the household and the tablet selected the number of people that are within the households, so the tablet will identify one individual. So that individual is the one that we have to talk to. You know, so even if we ask you the questions who are there, you give us all the information, and if it's tablet select another person,
yes.
So it's the person that we have to.
Martin, the cameraman.
Yes,
in
Martin,
the
the cameraman. So it's Martin that we have to talk to. So if Martin is not in the house, we also have like at least 3 callbacks. We say, okay, when is he gonna come back? If he's gonna be away, then we have to come back. At least we have to do it 3 times. And if Martin comes and say we don't want to talk to you, we have to move. So it's not an easy step. From that process. So, but the only thing that we factor in the process, I hear people talking about, oh, politics here and there. We don't factor those things. We try as much as possible to ensure that our interviews reflect gender, because also the rural, urban, all those things have already been sampled. So when we get there, now the field worker's job is to ensure that they interview, if they interview, the first interview is male, then their second interview must be female. So now, if they move to the second household, now they have to pick, list the gender that has been missing. And
the opposite gender.
Yeah, the opposite gender, and then they complete it. So why are we also doing, so we're using how, you know, even though we're interviewing individuals, but individuals live within households. These households exist in, it could be in compounds, but exist in communities, exist in villages, and villages make up, you know, towns or districts, and eventually it makes up the whole entire country. So for us, that's how far we go. And we don't, and sometimes when they are sampled, the other, I think in round 9, so me, usually I'm not in the field, but round 9, sometimes when they are in the field and there are things that are needed, so I go. I met the team in one of the border communities with Casamas in Fonyi. So we go everywhere across the country as long as it has been sampled.
I hope they don't mistakenly, you
know.
No,
you cannot. So while you are in the field, we have a data manager that is online, that is also managing where these interviews are coming from. Because also we have all our quality control mechanisms that we expect that our questionnaires will take at least, because we have 100 questions. So at least it will take at least 1 hour. 1 hour plus for you to, you know, for me to interview you with that questionnaire. So if you spend 30 minutes, we know that you may skip certain questions, and certain questions cannot be skipped. That's why also the digitalization of these processes are very important.
So you always ask 100 questions?
Yeah. Have you seen the afrobarometer questionnaire?
No, I haven't.
I think that's our biggest challenge. And every year we want to ask more.
100 questions?
Yeah, more than it's more than 100 even.
And the people you talk to, do they always have, you know, the time to sit and answer every question?
Yes, sometimes there are refusals. Like for instance, if you look at our technical information, we also provided contact rate. We have like 97% contact rate, and out of that 97%, we have 81% cooperation rate, and then we have also refusal rate of 8.3%, and then response rate of 78.95%. So there are people that refuse. Sometimes the people will start and say, you know, and then they give up. But also there are people, they have a lot of things to say, you know, and this is also the point that a lot of people miss, because you don't know, you know, because if you look at the pictures, because we take pictures while we're in the communities, only that we don't show the pictures, the faces of our respondents. But we interview, as long as you're selected by the tablet, we interview you. You know, if you allow us to do, and it could be an older person, somebody that feel like they're too disconnected with what is happening. For us, we have opportunity. We're always on the media. This is our job, and so people are listening to us. But there are so many people in this country that have a lot of things to say, and sometimes, you know, for them, some of those people, we can spend almost more than 1 hour, close to 2 hours, because you're asking them these questions. They keep telling you their own, you know, ordeals, their different stories, their dissatisfaction, like so many things. But you as an interviewer, you are trying to bring them back to the issues that you are trying to interested. But if you follow all through, you see that people have a lot of things to say.
Yeah, but when they drag you into other areas, I mean, does that influence the report ultimately?
No.
I mean, it was not captured in your questionnaire, but you know, some new thoughts have filtered through. I mean,
so for us, the teamwork that goes there. After that, we do have the briefing sessions, and for us, those are also contextual issues, because at the end of the day, when you get to the field work, you have to write a report. But we also do trainings. Before we get to the field work, we do like 5 days training where we take the enumerators through the questionnaire, train them for them to do practice among themselves, do a pilot as well before they get into the community. So all these things also, we've been doing this for 4 years. Now we've been, we're also aware of the terrain. And so after that, we do the briefing, and some of these issues or the interests do come up. But some of these interests that they're also talking about are also structured in the questionnaire, because we ask almost, different from quality of life, democracy, politics, institutions, international relations, media, youth, women. So there are a lot of issues, all the issues that they're talking about must fall under that. But the only difference is that we are doing a survey, a quantitative method, not a qualitative. So we're mostly interested in those kind of responses. So sometimes, yes, people will say this is too long, we don't want to. But now I also think the more people are aware of the things that we are doing now, going to the media, they get more aware. And so it's an opportunity for them to have a say in the discussions.
Absolutely. Sait Matty is with us for the full hour. We're looking at opinion polling this morning on Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. If you'd like to advertise on the program, get in touch with Mr. Jibril Jassi on 787-0107 or 699-0107 or 924-24-24. It's the adverts that sustain Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on West Coast Radio. And we're so glad to have Wave rejoin us. Now, as a pollster, Sait Matty's role is to gauge public opinion, which is often influenced by current events and societal trends. Therefore, it's essential to stay updated on the latest news, popular culture, and shifts in public sentiment. I began by asking, how you consume news, whether you go out in the morning to get the papers. I know you are always in the media, but how important is continuous learning and the ability to change, to adapt to change, I should say, doing the kind of job you do?
Yeah, for me, basically, education is about transformation. It's about transforming oneself. And right now, as we're discussing, new things are coming up. AI is becoming something else.
Exactly.
And so you have to pick it up.
A lot of people feel that AI is threatening their job.
Yeah,
do you think your job is threatened by AI? Do you think AI can
it's
go
a
there?
tool. It's a tool. For me, everything here is a tool that can be used. The primary... the most important thing is, what you know and how you delivering on that. AI, before AI, there were other things that we use, SPSS. We use SPSS to analyze data, makes it easy with just clicks. You get your report. So this is the way. So, but it's always important, to be updated, not only for things that you're interested in, for in line in your work, but what is happening around you is always important. Yeah. And even we track people's media in terms of how they listen to the media. We do that with afrobarometer as well.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Maybe I should come to you for some, whisperings on perception, because what you do is all about perception. Indeed, as
we ask people about their opinion, but not only also perception, because we also do live experience. Like we asked you in the past 12 months, where there are times that you have gone without cash income, food, and all those things. These are self-reported things. If people, if you haven't got...
I think that is important to emphasize, because in one of, the first counterattacks, if you like, from government, your former colleague in the UTG, Dr. Ismail Lature, said these are just, perception.
Yeah,
it's just a perception survey.
It's not only perception.
And it depends on how you ask the question, how you frame the question.
And that's why when we are releasing our report, we are very transparent, because, when you're doing research, transparency is very critical. And so even in if you look at our surveys, the way we present it, we include the questions that we ask. And, so we don't only ask about perceptions, we also ask about lived experience, when without basic life necessities. For instance, we asked them over the past year, how often, if ever, have you or anyone in your family gone without enough food to eat, enough clean water for home use, medicines or medical treatment, enough fuel work to cook your food, a cash income.
Yeah.
And tell me people don't know when they have, in the past.
Yeah, but what is enough? And how much is enough?
Enough in terms of...
No, that's what I'm saying. What may be enough for you may not be enough
Yes,
for me.
yes.
What may be enough for you may be too much for me.
That's why we are interested in the individual response. Because we want to know your situation and how you see it, your life experience. That's the life that you live. So that's why if you look at our demographic data, you see that we interview people for no formal education, people with post-secondary education. It's across.
And that's when you interpret for them.
Yeah, that's the...
or translate, I should say. That's when the question is translated for them.
Yeah, like for instance...
And then the interview is conducted in
the local language.
The language that the person
Yes.
can speak.
Yes. So for instance, this one could be translated in Wolof, in Mandinka, depending on what they want to speak. Yeah. But for us, we don't just go to the field and do the translation. Before that, we do the translation and then the training for the enumerators and all that. Because Gambia also, there are different dialects. Sometimes, Fanas, certain things are said in this way, and in other, if you go to the interior, it means different things maybe. So at some point, we try to also see how best we can harmonize those differences in the.
Just going back to the framing of that question, whether you've had enough to eat. How about if you had asked the question, has there ever been a day when you went without breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Yeah, a day would be 365 days. So it could be a day is like, it's very difficult to measure. But so that's why
I'm saying any day within the past
but then you need to look at
or whatever.
Yeah, you need to look at the responses as well. So we also provide a response where we say never. I've never gone without
it. You give them options.
Yeah. So for surveys you give options. So that's the difference between for me today. I can, if I'm doing a qualitative study, I can say Uncle Peter, over the past year, I just allow you to expand and tell me all the times, the days, if you want. But here our responses were...
when people come here, I don't give them options.
Yeah. So here. So but then we don't tell them the options.
You don't?
Yeah. So in most cases, they tell us, okay, I've gone, Burina. Minute. So then we try to...
So Barina for you would be...
Okay, now Barina, is it many times? Is it several times? Well, just once or twice? For us, those are the responses that guys take. Many times or always. There are people that say always. You can always, mom, I'm nothing. So, and then there are those that say several times and just once or twice, and those that say never. For instance, food. If you look at food, we have like 56% that say they've never gone without food. So if you're interpreting that as they've never had food, I saw someone, that was the way that he looked at it. He said, how can 56 or 48% say they've gone without food? But no, the green ones was like those that have never gone without it, that they have had it. But then you can look at 17% say many times or always. So you need to look at, there is a food problem within society, but it doesn't affect the entire population. It affects at least 17 or 2 out of 10 citizens. And there are also 13 percentage points that say several times. So it's the severity. So we try to also measure those kind of stuff. But these are also important information. If you're looking at poverty and all those different stuff, you can look at the problem of cash income. There are people that are unemployed. People without employment, they might not have cash income.
Well, unless they have they have somebody in
Italy. Yes, but like cash income, so medical care as well. You need to now. You can go to hospital, you can access it, but if you want to get the medicine, whether you're rich or poor, you go out and buy it.
Yes.
So that is universal. So there are people that cannot afford that.
I spoke about my wife's experience when she went to Serekunda Health Center. We're still going to these community things,
And you have water.
We're not rich enough to fly out of this country to get medical treatment. But
we also interested in the basic necessities, because service delivery is for the people to have access to these things. And if cash income is about jobs, is about things that people can lay hands, do their work, and get something out. If people are not everybody, there are 26% that say they have consistent cash income, and especially those that are receiving monthly salary. But look at the farmer that only works 3 months in the year, so almost the rest of the 9 months no work, But even to sometimes get their money is here and there, and we've seen the kind of conversation that was happening. So these are things that, we need to also factor.
Talking about the farmers, if you were to do this kind of study now, goodness me, the kind of response you'll get from them is going to be...
Yeah, that is also the timing also very, very, very critical, because it's also the current discussion.
And speaking of timing, you did this in April, May.
April, May.
Why was the report out only, in December? And unfortunately for the government, a few days before Christmas. So it wasn't the ideal Christmas gift for the government.
Actually, so Afrobarometer, I think this is, this is one thing that why Afrobarometer is also different from many surveys. There are surveys that have been done, but sometimes the reports are just kept there or for different purposes. But Afrobarometer is a public good. A public good means that our results are not kept in a shelf somewhere, but it must be disseminated. That's why we go and engage the media. That's why we do this kind of engagement. But we started releasing this, I think, in August, September. Because, after you collect the data, you have to do cleaning and all those different stuff.
So you've been releasing the reports in...
pieces.
Okay.
Yes, because also I told you we have 100 questionnaire. Imagine releasing the 100 questionnaire.
So what you presented in December was the full report?
Yes. So also for us, because also we want to... for me, that's also my... because we want to release reports based on... international events and things that are happening, or kind of discussions. Like on the 18th of December, we released on migration, where we saw that almost 68% of Gambians considered migrating.
Yes.
So those are the timings that we use in terms of releasing, so that it can help inform conversation around that. And so this economic problem, was identified to be released as part of our second dissemination. But along the way, we noticed that, government was about to go on a nationwide tour, talk to the people and engage the people, farmers and all that stuff. And we have also done that. So we've gone to places where even government haven't been to, because government, if you follow their map, it's mostly maybe in major areas where they go to, but we go to communities where access to roads, all these things are not even possible.
Well, that's interesting. The excuse they give for the Meet the People tour is that the president gets to places ordinarily, Gambians hardly,
in most instances, it's the people that are interested that come to the president. But for us, we go to people in their own homes, in their own places.
Government, are you listening?
Our methods, if they want to use the Mix the People tour as a basis, it's good. For me, I have no problem. Government must engage and discuss with the population. But you cannot use that as a measurement to, push aside what we are doing. We go to the people that might hardly even have fare to come to the Meet the People meetings.
And what about the integrity of your enumerators? Because that ultimately will, impact on the integrity of the entire report. We have seen the reaction from government, from Demba Sabali, for instance. Saying that 8 out of 10 Gambians, is dissatisfied with, the direction of the country under this government. He says, well, if you go to a mainly opposition base and conduct, a survey like that, you would naturally come up with, that kind of outcome. He could go to, areas in this country and come out with a 90%, satisfaction report.
I think the difference between us and them is we're not doing an opposition survey. We're doing a nationwide survey. For them, politicians, they can do that. They can go to an opposition area or their stronghold and do those kind of stuff. But we are interested in a nationally, sample. That's why we are not interested in asking people about their political affiliation. Can I look at you and know which political party you belong, even if you live in this area? How is that possible?
Well, you're lucky. I just took off took off the label this morning.
Yeah, you took. But sometimes, when I listen to those things, I just laugh and say, okay, it's the politicians talking. But I think they need to be reasonable and understand, one, that we are scientists. They're politicians, they're doing their politics and all those things, which is okay. I'm not telling them how to do their politics. They cannot tell me how to do my science work. And I think that's the respect that we need to establish and not to force. Because what we are doing, we are bringing people. We recruit people that have been trained. As I told you, we do training. But we don't only stop at training. Our enumerators are also academics, people that are interested in what we're doing. And the good thing with afrobarometer is people are using it to write master's thesis, even PhD, academics. And afrobarometer is not only Gambia, it's across Africa, but you have support institutions from the University of Michigan, University of Cape Town. Academics, global academics are using this data. And the people that are giving government money is exactly the same institutions that are giving us money, EU, World Bank, and those are the institutions that are also depending on this data. So when we release the report, we just release it for public consumption. So it could be consumed by World Bank, EU, the government. If they accept it, fine. If they don't accept it, if they reject it, it has nothing to do with us. That is their
government. You mean?
Yeah, government. I mean, for us,
would you say that's a missed opportunity? Because here is, an opportunity to know what people are complaining about. Because that's what government are meant to do.
But for me,
to hear the complaints of the people and try as much as they can, to solve the problem.
But for me, even like when government say they reject it, and I go to their national development plan and I see that they are quoting Afrobarometer, I said, "What are you
quoting Afrobarometer?"
Oh, go to the national development plan. For us, we also track our engagement.
The positive sections.
Yeah,
of
the positive
report.
sections of the report. Not the positives, because no, it was about citizens. I cannot remember the exact section, but it's about sharing citizens' perception. Because it's also critical. Because the other problem in this country, in 2014, I was arrested trying to do Gallup poll because the problem of data is one issue. And so what we are doing is government is not spending the butut in this. We are collecting data available freely and then putting it there to tell them that this is what the people are saying. They can do that. They were on a nationwide tour. They're on the radio. They're everywhere. They're hearing exactly what we are telling them is what the people are telling them. And I listened to the interview with the agriculture minister. He said that the president's priority are agriculture, infrastructure, and what?
Energy.
And that is also part of the most important problems that the people are saying. So if our priorities that are listed by the people are baseless, then the priorities of the president is for who? So those are the things that I think that they
have you done anything on energy delivery? Because I would love to.
I think Gambia did that with Sepras at some point. I'm not sure.
And what was the outcome?
I cannot remember on top of my head, but
because despite spending so much, to buy foreign generated power, I mean our situation is still desperate.
It is, but in terms of the most important problem, at some point, in 2018, it was one of the highest on the agenda. But over the period,
because it was during the transition phase when we were doing well.
Yes,
because then our production capacity in 2018 would be bigger than our production capacity today because suddenly we have become too dependent on foreign generated power. That's putting pressure on the dollar because you need to raise foreign
currency,
to pay for that.
I mean, I think like sometimes, for me, I'm one of those that believe our problem is structural. We don't look internally and see some of these challenges. That's why we certainly make certain decisions that are very expensive, and the people that pay the price is us.
Yeah, the taxpayers.
Yeah, the taxpayers. Yeah. When they increase, we have to increase. Yeah. When the things float, we have to also...
Some of them are getting electricity for free. It's costing them nothing. So it doesn't matter whether the kilowatt costs, $1 million or whatever, they will still get it
when fuel,
FOC, free of charge. Yeah.
But the rest of us, there are people, and so those people that are not benefiting, they also have a say.
So in 3 minutes, the report that Barometer has come out with, how it can benefit Gambians in general, including the government, and where we go on from here.
I mean, for me, when I look at it in the other way, I said even government rejection disagreeing, because I don't know whether they disagree or reject, because when I read the statement, they welcome...
They reject the report.
Yeah, they reject, but then they welcome the positive. In the same statement, I also saw where they...
And let me, just before you go further, I mean, do you think the media also plays a part in the way, maybe government reacts? Because if you come out with this and all we pick is, 80% of Gambians, think, the country is being steered in the wrong direction. Of course, government
we organize a dissemination event and we release different questions.
Yes.
So, but now, Uncle Peter, we cannot tell you today what you pick. So we will come up with our report.
That's true.
What you want to highlight is not... That's why I said when we release our report, it's not our duty now to see how people react to it, what they prioritize. But for us, we know what we've released. So as long as they are not changing the figures, changing the numbers, and it is how they use it is also up to them.
True.
And so it is a public thing, so they can use it in that way. So if they want to highlight the direction of the country, it's fine. But even the direction of the country, if you read the report, in 2022, it was 79%. So there is a decrease. Even though today is still high, like 77% are saying is moving in the wrong direction. But if you look at the graph, it is going down.
That's true.
Even if you look at the personal economic condition of the people, if you look at the graph, it was during COVID and 2022 and all that, but now it's picking up again. So you see, afrobarometer shows you all that. And so for us, we say that we have, from 2018 to now, a collection of citizens' opinion in this country that can critically and reliably show the trajectory of this country. So the
report is not as bad as government thinks it is. I mean, you hear 77%, but the last report was 79%. So this is an improvement on 70%.
You know, in this one, they asked us to give us 5 questions as country-specific questions, and one of the questions we used was better or worse, whether things are better under Barrow or worse. And those things were freedom of speech. Imagine, 80%. But they highlighted this in the statement that they talk about. These are the positives that they highlighted. Youth participation in politics, 69%. These are positives. But the negatives are peace and security because people feel insecure. But the government, the mistake that they continue to do, they compare security here with security everywhere else. People don't care about the security in other countries. They care about their own security.
They will come and tell us,
Gambia is more...
No, in New Orleans, somebody just, ran a truck into, a crowd of revelers.
They need to reduce the comparison and focus on what the people are saying and say, how do we address the peace and insecurity that people are feeling?
Absolutely.
And this has to do with engaging the people and discussing this way, and the solution comes from the people.
Absolutely. Sait, let's have your, closing remarks, if any.
Well, thank you, Uncle Peter. It's always a pleasure to be here. And just to remind everybody, this is where we started, where we were going to university, coming here, doing all the debates.
You always say this.
Because I'm part of a generation that always say that we have to remember where we are coming from if we want to know where we want to head to. We cannot forget the past, and I think there are a lot of people that have contributed to where we are today, and we continue to appreciate that. Today I'm debating with my professor on this survey, but he was the first person to expose me to survey under our contemporary Gambian political class in 2011. And so there are a lot of things that, we need to appreciate, but where we have to disagree, we sit, and I think that's also what you're providing, the platform. And I think for us, this is what we want. We want our politics to change from he says, this debate, but to look at the issues that matter to the people. And I think the new phase of our transition should be focused on the socio-economic issues, because these are the things that also matter to the people mostly. And thank you so much for inviting me today as well.
Sait Matty, yes, Sait Matty Jau is, you're the executive director, is it?
Yes, executive director. Yeah, I'm the chief politician of CRPD. So they take their politician, me to our politician for another organization.
There you go. All right, you've been listening to Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on Friday, the 3rd of January, 2025. It's the last program of the week, so we wish you all a very happy weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.